The faint scent of lavender and old books, her signature mix, still clung to the sweater I'd borrowed last weekend. If you'd asked me then, I would have told you that was the smell of my future. I'm Liam, 28, and a month ago, the universe was a well-ordered, beautiful place. At its center was Sophie. 3 years together, a shared apartment for two, a life so perfectly intertwined it felt like a single, seamless existence. I wasn't just happy, I was building an entire world on the bedrock of us. A world where the tabs open on my work computer weren't just for spreadsheets, but for cushion-cut diamonds and the ethics of lab-grown versus natural stones. We were the couple our friends pointed to, a living, breathing exhibit A for the case that modern love wasn't dead. Our life was a collage of comfortable rituals. The lazy sizzle of pancakes on a Sunday morning, the quiet rustle of leaves as we walked through the park after work, her hand always finding its way into mine. I even learned to love the saccharine drama of the terrible reality shows she adored, the predictable chaos, a comforting soundtrack to my own quiet world of mobile games. It was easy. It was safe. My mom treated her like a daughter she'd always wanted. Her dad, a man of few words and even fewer smiles, had started calling me son during our Sunday football games. I wasn't just in love, I was home. I should have known it was too good to be true. Perfection is a fragile thing. It happened last Tuesday. The day started like any other, but now I can see the cracks that were already there. The way she was glued to her phone that morning, a tight, secretive smile on her face. The way she kissed me goodbye, a brief, distracted peck that barely landed. At the time, it was just life. Now, it's evidence. We were on the couch, eating Thai food out of cartons, the TV murmuring in the background. Sophie was recounting some mundane drama from her office, and I was halfway through a bite of pad see ew when she dropped the anchor that dragged our perfect world into the abyss. She did it with the same casual tone she'd used to ask me to pass the soy sauce. "Hey," she began, her fork suddenly fascinated with a single noodle on her plate. "What would you think about trying an open relationship?" The world stopped. The noodle in my mouth tasted like cardboard. My hand, holding the carton, froze inches from my lap. For a heartbeat, my brain refused to process the words, scrambling for a more logical explanation. Maybe it was a line from the show, a joke I wasn't in on. "What?" I managed, my voice sounding foreign in the sudden ringing silence. She finally dragged her eyes upward, but they didn't meet mine. They fixed on a point on the wall, just over my shoulder, as if her script was written there. And then it began a well-rehearsed, soul-crushing monologue. She'd been doing a lot of reading, she said. She used phrases like personal evolution and argued that exploring new experiences could ultimately deepen our core connection. She delivered these lines with the detached enthusiasm of a TED Talk speaker, and all I could think was, this is the same woman who once gave a waitress a death glare for complimenting my shirt. My mind was a maelstrom of confusion and hurt, but one icy, sharp question sliced through the noise. It was the only question that mattered. "Is there someone?" I asked. My voice was flat, devoid of the emotion that was strangling me. She darted her eyes to the side. Just for a fraction of a second, a flicker of guilt, a flash of something she desperately tried to conceal. It was loud as a confession. No, of course not, babe. This isn't about anyone else. This is about us. We're still young. I don't want to wake up in 10 years with regrets, wondering what we might have missed out on." There it was, the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card, disguised as a selfless act of foresight. She didn't want to miss out, but the look in her eyes, that desperate, pleading eagerness for me to just say yes, made it terrifyingly clear. This wasn't a conversation, it was a notification of new terms and conditions, and my signature was the only thing pending. In that deafening silence, I saw my two paths. I could say no, detonate the bomb myself, and watch her walk away. I'd be the villain in her story, the insecure, controlling boyfriend who stood in the way of her personal evolution. Or I could agree. I could stay in the game. I could pick up the new rule book she was handing me and learn to play her game better than she ever could. I looked at the face of the woman I was planning to marry, a face I suddenly didn't recognize. A stranger was sitting there, so eager to trade our quiet, beautiful life for a cheap thrill. A cold, hard certainty settled in my gut, displacing the heartbreak. She wanted to play? Fine. Let's play. I let out a long, slow breath, performing a perfect imitation of thoughtful consideration. I let a small, tight smile touch my lips. "You know what, Sophie?" I said, my voice unnervingly steady. "You know what, Sophie? You're right. We shouldn't have any regrets." The relief that washed over her was so potent, so absolute, it was sickening. She beamed, a radiant, genuine smile that felt like a punch to the gut. She lunged across the cushions, grabbing my free hand. "Oh my God, Liam, I knew you'd understand. I knew it. This is going to be so amazing for us. You'll see." She was so lost in her victory that she didn't see the change in my eyes. She thought I was agreeing to her plan, her rules. She had no idea that in that precise moment, my own plan was being forged in the ice of my shattered heart. She thought she was opening a door for herself, but she had just unlocked a cage. "Okay," I said, my voice dangerously calm as I squeezed her hand back, a gesture of pure, cold deception. "Let's do it." She was too ecstatic to notice that the man she loved, the man who built his world around her, had vanished. In his place sat someone entirely different. Someone who was about to make her regret she ever knew the meaning of open relationship.
I said okay on a Tuesday. By Wednesday evening, I'd been demoted from future husband to the unpaid creative director for the demolition of my own life. There she was, curled on the very spot on our couch where we'd binge-watched entire series, where she'd fallen asleep on my chest 100 times. But the woman there now was a stranger, vibrating with a kind of electric, selfish energy I hadn't seen in years. "Okay, what about this one for the main picture?" she asked, tilting her phone toward me. The screen glowed in the dim light of the living room. "Does it make me look fun and adventurous, or is it too much?" The photo was from Costa Rica, my birthday trip, the one I'd meticulously planned for months, saved for, and surprised her with. I remember the exact moment I took it. She was standing at the edge of a waterfall, head thrown back, laughing into the spray. I remember thinking, my finger hovering over the button, this is it. This is the woman I'm going to marry. Now, that same captured joy was being repurposed as bait, a lure cast into a sea of strangers, all while I was sitting right there. "It's great, Soph," I heard myself say, my voice a hollow echo in the room. "You look happy." "Perfect," she chirped, her fingers flying across the screen. "Now, for the bio, I'm thinking something like ethically non-monogamous, in a loving long-term partnership, and exploring new connections. Does that sound too clinical?" It sounded like a lie wrapped in a buzzword. It sounded like you're trying to have your cake and cheat on it too. I just nodded, a tight, burning knot in my throat making it impossible to speak. It was an out-of-body experience. I was watching a stranger dismantle our past to build her new, exciting future. By the end of the night, she was swiping. The silence of the apartment was punctuated by the soft, almost imperceptible swoosh of her thumb moving across the screen. And then it came, the first match notification. A bright, cheerful digital chirp that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. She gasped, a giddy, girlish sound that made my blood run cold. I felt the pad thai I'd eaten hours earlier churn in my stomach. The The first week was a masterclass in psychological torture. She had 3 dates lined up before Friday even hit. There was Mark, the personal trainer with abs she described in excruciating detail. There was David, the food truck owner who was so passionate about artisanal tacos. And then there was Daniel, the lawyer. He was the one who got the second date. She'd stumble in late, flushed and bright-eyed, smelling of expensive cologne that wasn't mine, and wine I didn't buy her. She'd sit on the edge of our bed, untying the straps of a new top I'd never seen, and tell me all about the incredible conversation she was having. She called it radical transparency. She thought she was being respectful, following the rules she'd scribbled in a notebook. Rule number 1, full honesty about all dates. Rule number 2, no emotional attachments. Rule number 3, always come home to Liam. She didn't see it. She didn't see that I was no longer her partner. I was her charging station, her safety net, the guaranteed comfort she could return to after seeking her thrills. I was the loyal, pathetic puppy waiting by the door, ready with a comforting smile while the scent of another man lingered in her hair. The breaking point arrived with a fever and a new black dress. I was down for the count, shivering under a mountain of blankets, the flu having decided to kick me while I was already on the ground. Sophie was getting ready for her big Saturday night date with Daniel. She emerged from the bedroom in a slinky black dress I'd never seen before. It was a dress for a new life, a life I had no part in. You're still going?" I croaked, my voice rough and weak. She sighed, a flash of pure, undiluted annoyance crossing her face before she expertly masked it with a look of practiced concern. "Babe, we talked about this. This is the whole point. We can't let our old codependent habits hold us back from this growth. Canceling would be a step backward." She leaned down and pressed her lips to my sweaty forehead. The gesture was so performative, so condescending, it made me want to scream. "I won't be too late," she whispered, already turning away. "Love you." The door clicked shut, sealing me in the suffocating silence of our apartment. The silence screamed at me. This wasn't an experiment. This wasn't about growth. This was her exit strategy, meticulously planned with a fully furnished backup plan. And I was the backup plan. Lying there, marinating in sweat and misery, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A foolish, desperate part of me hoped it was her, a sudden pang of conscience, a change of heart. It wasn't. It was from her best friend, Emma. "Hey, heard you were sick. Sophie just posted an IG story from that rooftop bar, The Alibi. Seriously? You need me to bring over soup or whiskey? Your call, for real." I stared at the screen, the words blurring and sharpening. The Alibi. She wasn't just on a date, she was broadcasting it. Someone else saw it. Someone else knew how utterly twisted this was. A core of ice began to form in my gut, extinguishing the pathetic, flickering flame of my self-pity. Sophie wasn't the only one with a support system. And Emma had always had a bullshit detector that was second to none. I met her for coffee the next day, my fever broken, but a different kind of fire burning in its place. I laid it all out. The practice speech, the Costa Rica photo, the match notification, the new black dress, her leaving me sick in bed. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. I expected pity, a comforting hand on my arm. What I got was a cold, quiet fury. "That's not an open relationship, Liam. That's an open season on you. That's just Sophie being selfish and putting a trendy, progressive label on it so she doesn't have to feel like a monster. You're not going insane. You're being played." Hearing her say it, hearing the unvarnished truth from the one person who knew Sophie almost as well as I did, was like a key turning in a lock I didn't know was there. The fog of my grief and confusion began to lift. "So," Emma said, leaning forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "the question is, What are you gonna do about it?" I looked at her, at this unexpected ally in a war I thought I was fighting alone. For the first time in weeks, I felt a ghost of my old self return. The beaten-down doormat was gone. In his place was someone else. A slow, dangerous smile crept across my face. "I'm gonna play the game," I said, my voice steady and clear. By her rules, of course, full transparency and all. Sophie thought she was the only one on the field. She was about to find out what happens when you hand your opponent the rule book and they decide it's time to write a brand new chapter. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over a new message. My first move. I texted Emma, "Are you busy Friday night?"
I didn't tell Sophie about my date with Emma. According to her own rules, I didn't have to. We were just exploring. And for the first time in a month, I wasn't just going through the motions. I was actually having a good time. Our first date wasn't even a date. We went to the movies, just as friends, and we grabbed dinner the next week. It was easy. With Emma, I didn't have to pretend. She was the one person who knew the whole story, who saw the situation for the sham it was. She was funny and kind, and when she listened, she actually heard me. I started to remember what it felt like to be with someone who saw me as a person, not a backup plan. And then one night, everything changed. We were at her apartment, watching some old movie and sharing a pizza. Sophie was out on another one of her adventures, this time with some startup guy. Emma had been quiet for a while, and I could tell something was on her mind. She finally turned to me, her expression serious. "Liam, I need to tell you something, and it might make things weird, but I can't keep pretending." My stomach did this weird flip thing. I had no idea what was coming. "I've had feelings for you for a long time," she said, looking down at her hands. "Like since before you and Sophie even got together. But you were with her, and she's my best friend, so I never said anything. I started dating Mark, hoping it would go away, but it didn't work." I just sat there, trying to wrap my head around it. Emma. Kind, hilarious, drop-dead gorgeous Emma had feelings for me. How had I been so blind this whole time? She was the one who helped me pick out gifts for Sophie. She was the one who brought me homemade soup when I was sick, while Sophie barely texted to check in. She looked up at me, her green eyes searching mine. "And watching her treat you like this, seeing how much it's hurting you, it's been killing me. You deserve better than this." And in that moment, seeing this incredible, kind, beautiful woman looking at me like I was something worth fighting for, I leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting back at Sophie. In that moment, it was just about us. It felt right. Something that should have felt like crossing a line just felt like coming home. We ended up spending the night together. For the first time since this whole open relationship disaster began, I saw things clearly. The next morning, Sophie came home from her girls' night. Pretty sure Jessica was actually some guy named Jason, but whatever. She was all chatty, telling me about her night while making coffee. That's when I dropped the first hint. "Oh, Emma stopped by last night. We had a really good talk, you know?" The sound of the coffee pot scraping the counter filled the kitchen. "Emma was here?" "Yeah," I said, shrugging. "She's really easy to talk to, you know." The look on her face was priceless. It was this weird mix of confusion and suspicion. That's when she started doing it, checking my phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I'd catch her scrolling through my messages when I was in the bathroom. The funny thing? I deleted any real evidence. I just left enough normal, friendly texts to make her suspicious and drive her crazy. And it worked. Suddenly, she was the one who was insecure. She started canceling her own dates to stay home with me. She'd ask me where I was going, who I was seeing, what I was doing. The same woman who'd been coming home late from dates for weeks, who never gave me a straight answer about who she was with, was suddenly demanding to know my every move.
The final blow came about a week later. I was smiling at my phone while texting Emma, and she practically jumped across the couch to see what I was looking at. "Who are you texting?" she demanded, failing completely to sound casual. "Just Emma," I said. "She's really into this new show I recommended." Her face did this weird thing where she tried to smile, but it looked like she was in pain. "You guys have been talking a lot lately." "Yeah, she's great to talk to. She really gets me, you know?" That's when she lost it. Is it Emma? Are you sleeping with Emma, my best friend, really?" Funny how you're allowed to sleep with whoever you want, but the moment I do the same, it's a problem. "But it's Emma," she screamed, her voice shaking. "She's my best friend. You can't sleep with my best friend." "Actually," I said, my voice cold and calm, "I can. And I did. Multiple times, in fact. You wanted an open relationship, Sophie? This is me playing by your rules." Her face went from shock to pure rage in about 2 seconds. "You're lying. Emma would never do that to me. Remember last Thursday when you were out with that startup guy? Emma came over. We talked for hours. Then we slept together. She sees me as a person, not just some backup plan waiting at home while you live your best life." She started crying then, big, dramatic sobs that probably would have worked on me a month ago. But all I could think about was how she hadn't shed a single tear over how much she'd been hurting me. "We can fix this," she said between sobs. "We can go back to how things were." I just shook my head. "No, we can't. Because now I know what it feels like to be with someone who actually values me, and I'm not settling for less than that anymore." That's when Sophie did something I never expected. She grabbed her keys, her face a mask of fury, and stormed out. "I'm going to Emma's place to sort this out once and for all," she screamed, slamming the door behind her. The moment the door slammed, I grabbed my phone to warn Emma. "Let her come. I need to handle this myself. She's been my best friend for 10 years. I owe her that much." She showed up screaming. My neighbors probably heard everything. She kept yelling about how I betrayed her, how I'm a terrible friend, how we'd been plotting this all along. "I didn't do anything. I suggested an open relationship to make us stronger. I didn't tell you to go sleep with my best friend." She really didn't get it. She couldn't understand that I didn't want to date other people. I wanted her, the old her, the one who used to love our boring, normal life together.